Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 881, 881, August the 29th, 2019, Thursday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, well we got a few things to talk about today. Let's see here. Let's start with this story right here. How about this one? Jeffrey Epstein. Well, it appears that one of the cameras outside of Epstein's prison cell captured footage that is unusable. It's unusable. Imagine that. Can you imagine that the camera that would show what was happening outside of Epstein's cell is unusable? Happens all the time. You have another camera which has footage that might be usable, but it appears that nothing has been learned from that camera's footage. Yeah. Epstein's lawyers were in court on Tuesday, and they asked the judge to investigate the unusual circumstances of Epstein's death. The attorneys say that they spoke with Epstein the day before his death, and he was not despairing, he was not despondent or suicidal. The lawyers say that Epstein's injuries are more consistent with assault than they are with suicide. Federal prosecutor Maureen Comey, that's right, the daughter of James Comey, told the court that there is a DOJ investigation already underway. My friends, let's go ahead and get squared away on the Epstein thing. It's over. It's going to go down in history just like JFK and many other deep state plots as unresolved. And anyone who talks about it in the future will be considered a conspiracy theorist. That's how the game works. It is over and done with. That's it. That is it. Do any of you have any confidence whatsoever that the DOJ or Inspector General report or any other investigation by the deep state is going to produce any conclusions other than the official story? Not a chance. And to this day, I still can't tell you whether it was Jeffrey Epstein who died in that cell or whether he's sitting on a Caribbean island somewhere laughing and sipping some tea. I have no idea. What I can tell you is that the official story is bullshit. There must be more than two dozen things that happened that really should not happen. But they did. If it was just one or two things, you could say, well, that's just maybe some coincidence there. But there cannot be dozens of simultaneous coincidences, especially when you've got the most high-profile prisoner in the entire U.S. federal prison system. Too many things. Too many things. You have to be a dope to believe the official story, but we're never going to get the truth, I can tell you that. This one is buried. It's gone, baby, gone. It ain't coming back around. As the days go on, there'll be fewer and fewer stories and less interest. Yes, there will still be internet sleuths and various other people who will still be trying to get to the bottom of it. Problem is that you need evidence. You need to interview witnesses. And the average internet sleuth can't do that, can they? Can't get the evidence, can we? Nope. Sure can't. And probably in a year or two, there'll be some report that'll come out. It'll be on the back page of the paper. And it'll basically tell us that the final conclusions that Epstein committed suicide appears to be true. They couldn't find any problems. It all seems to check out. It's all good. Gone, baby, gone. This one will just be filed in the annals of more conspiracies unresolved. More deep state plots successfully carried out. And I want to believe that A.G. Barr is a straight shooter. But when you see things like this, you begin to have your doubts. Maybe this is not a hill he wants to die on. Is there any hill he's willing to die on? I don't know. But it sure as hell isn't the Epstein hill. This one's gone, baby, gone. Speaking of Epstein and the strange death, the Clintons have been photographed several times since Epstein's murder, and they appear to be all smiles. Things seem to have worked out well for the Clintons in regards to Epstein. Yesterday, the Rotten Reverend was photographed in the Hamptons. Looking pretty rough, too, by the way. She appears to have swallowed a beach ball. And she's wearing a hat and some kind of creepy-looking, crazy-looking dress. Muumuu, I guess you would call it. Gateway Pundit described it as a tent. It's a crazy-looking dress. I've never seen anything like it. Of course, if you look at the picture, I'm sure many of you have seen the pic, she does not look well. She appears to have a lot of swelling around her ankles, and of course her thymus, her calves are about this big around, so she's definitely retaining some water, some swelling. She looks a little crazy. She's dressed like a bag lady. I don't know what to think. The Rotten Reverend, she's nuts, obviously, but there's something going on with her health, and there has been for a long time. Very long time. But I believe that they'll be firing up the Scooby van, and the Rotten Reverend doesn't care what her health situation is. She just wants to be able to say she was president, even if it's for one day before she keels over. And they'll scoop her up like a beached whale, drop her in the clay, have a ceremony, and she'll go down as president in her mind. Never going to happen in reality, but that's what's going on in her sick mind. Of course, the Rotten Reverend, like I've been saying for a long time, is like a demonic buzzard. A demonic buzzard circling overhead over Creepy Joe, waiting for him to become political roadkill so that she can swoop down and peck away at the rotting flesh of his rotten carcass. That's the Rotten Reverend. There she is, the demonic buzzard, waiting for Biden to spit the bit. Let's see. Speaking of Creepy Joe, Crazy Joe Biden, let's get, I guess this is what you could call it, daily Biden gaffe. In fact, we should almost have a segment every day, the daily Joe Biden gaffe segment, because we have them every day. And today's Crazy Joe Biden gaffe segment would include the following. He's in South Carolina. He's talking to a group of people, and he's talking about this statement that Trump made in the press conference when he was over in Europe about the fact that Putin played Obama by taking in Ukraine and Crimea, by taking over Crimea. And as Biden is explaining this to the crowd, he says Trump is saying that it was President, and then he literally blanks. Realizes he cannot remember Obama's name and just says, my boss. So it kind of sounds like this. He goes, yeah, and Trump is saying that it was President, my boss, is his fault. The sentence doesn't work because he forgets the name. He forgets Obama. Can't remember who Obama's name is. What Obama's name is. What his boss's name was. So then he has a couple seconds of a uncomfortable pause, in which case he just says, my boss, and then finishes off the statement with, is his fault. So it really doesn't work, if you know what I mean. It looks kind of crazy, as you would expect. Yep, he forgets Obama's name. You can't ride someone's coattails if you can't remember their name. But that's okay, he's hanging in there. But the Rotten Reverend, the demonic buzzard, is circling overhead, I can assure you of that. He also accused in this statement, he was down in South Carolina, he also said and accused Japan of being xenophobic. Yes, Japan is xenophobic. They don't want foreigners. They don't want foreigners. They don't want foreigners so that women have to work longer. Man, you talk about having your brains rattled. This dude's brains are, they're scattered, scattered, covered, smothered, and chunked. They're done. Yes, sirree. So now we're hearing that Biden's advisors are beginning to worry that his gaffes are becoming a problem. Oh, they're beginning to worry that his gaffes are becoming a problem. You think so? Yeah, Biden advisors. I'm kind of thinking Biden advisors are working for the rotten reverend, the demonic buzzard. Wouldn't that be funny if we come to find that Biden's team is basically being bankrolled by the rotten reverend, put in place by the rotten reverend? That would be hilarious. Now that would be funny. That would be funny. That'd be an excellent dirty political trick right there. Yeah, like I say, his advisors are likely working for the rotten Reverend Clinton. That'd be my guess. That's the only thing I can think of. Either that, or he's just not taking, either that, or they're, actually real professional advisors and they're giving him good advice and he just isn't taking it. What's one of the two? He's either getting bad advice or he's getting good advice and he's not taking it. I just don't know which. But eventually you will start seeing people leave his campaign. People, you don't want to be the last one sticking around with that train wreck. You want to be the first one getting off that train and headed to a campaign you think might have a chance of some success. And the only reason that Biden is even remotely still in this thing is because the rest of the field is so freaking bad. Think about that. Biden is still essentially in most polls, especially in the polls in New Hampshire, in Iowa, he's still showing being a leader. We had this Monmouth poll that came out that was kind of a outlier. I don't place much in that poll really. It's there's too many other polls that have been out there still showing with a slight lead. But it's hard to say, man. Polls are so rigged and manipulated these days, weaponized, that polling is pretty much almost out the window. It's really it's really hard to tell these days. It's so rigged. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing that Biden is actually in first place in any competition for, this is his third time. He's never got more than 1% before. He normally doesn't even make it to the first primary. And the fact that he's doing this well is not because he suddenly became a good candidate. It's because the rest of the field is just horrible, unelectable. And he's unelectable. That's why I say something has to give here. Now, you know what? I mean, I hope I'm wrong, actually. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Biden actually wins the nomination. I think that would be fantastic. Well, for all of us, it wouldn't be good for Biden. Wouldn't be good for his supporters and certainly his family because he's going to absolutely be embarrassed. In fact, after the first debate with Trump, they might cancel the remaining debates. They might just, it's like, we can't go through this anymore. It's just, we can't do this again. This was actually embarrassing. And the nation won't want to see it. They'll be like, no, please, take Uncle Joe to some sort of a facility where he can get round-the-clock care. He's probably got something going on here. We can't see this again. This is not something that should be played out on the national stage. It's beyond embarrassing. It's sadistic almost. So we'll see. Well, it looks like another clown has bailed out of the clown car. That would be Kirsten Gillibrand. That's right, Kirsten Gillibrand. And it looked like she was sitting at about 1%. Now, I don't think she was going to qualify for this last debate, so it wasn't going to matter anyway. If you don't qualify for this last debate, you're probably done, right? So, yeah, she was polling at about 1%, so she's calling it quits. So she's probably off to do some shots, be my guess. She's going to go out and do some shots. So there we go, another clown bailing out of the clown car, Kirsten Gillibrand throwing in the towel. She should have done it a long time ago. She never had a chance. Well, it looks like Comey's leaker buddy and lawfare head, Benjamin Witz, has stated in a blog post that he expects Andy McCabe will be indicted any day now. He certainly should be. But we're also hearing some other things about this. We're hearing that Lisa Page is basically taking his side, or at least when she was called in front of this grand jury, and we understand they had a grand jury. There was very few witnesses. One of them was Lisa Page, and she said that she believed that McCabe was not violating the law when he leaked the stories, which she and Michael Corton wrote on his behalf to Mr. Devlin over there at the Wall Street Journal. And she says that he did not commit a crime because he was authorized to leak those stories. Now, that puts him back in that. That kind of puts us back in that Comey versus McCabe thing, where, okay, if McCabe was authorized, and I find that very difficult to believe, especially based on what it was that he was having leaked. He was having Lisa Page and Michael Corton write a story and leak it to the Wall Street Journal, 2 stories actually, that were a response to a story that had been written about the shady dealings with his wife receiving all those campaign funds from Terry McAuliffe, who likely got the money from the Clinton Foundation and Clinton donors. And someone writing a story raising question about that. So McCabe was responding to that. It has nothing to do with FBI business. This was about covering his personal hiney. And he's using FBI resources to do it. And then he's leaking. But supposedly, according to Lisa Page, he was authorized to do so. Well, who could authorize that? He only has one boss there, Comey. But when Comey's asked, did you authorize McCabe to do any leaking? He says no. Of course, we know Comey's a liar. But then again, we know McCabe is a liar. So who do you believe, Comey or McCabe? And the idea that would have been an authorized leak, I don't think so. I don't think so. But regardless of whether he was authorized, if he was authorized to leak it and there was no problem with it, then why did he lie about it? Why did he lie about it? If it was okay, then why did he lie about it? Not just once, not just twice, 3 times under oath, and then another time not under oath. So he lies about it 4 times. Why do you lie about something that's not a problem? You see, there's the problem in itself. It's also being suggested that because he's probably going to be in a court in D.C., the jury will likely be friendly to him. And so there's some people throwing some doubts as to whether or not the DOJ will prosecute him because they think, well, we may not be able to win the case because it'll be in D.C., it'll be a jury friendly to him, anti-Trump. And so maybe, and of course you got Lisa Page's now testimony to the grand jury that she doesn't think he broke the law. But it's real simple. You bring in Comey. Well, first of all, you establish that, in fact, he probably did break the law or certainly violated policy. The Office of Professional Responsibility are the ones who determined that he should be fired. But the fact is, regardless of whether or not it was approved or not approved or okay or not okay, he lied about it. That's the point. He lied about it 3 times. 4 times. 3 times under oath and 1 time not under oath. And, you know, this idea, well, they probably won't go to court because they could lose. Well, you know, prosecutors take cases to court every day hoping that they will win, believing they will win, and they know they're on the right side of the law. In this particular case, they're on the right side of the law. He did lie 3 times under oath to the DOJ and the FBI, Horowitz and the FBI. So that there's no question there. And all they have to do in front of the jury is prove that he lied. That's not hard to do because Horowitz released the damn transcripts back in this past spring, and they were published. And I read them here. You all read them. We all read them. Clearly, Horowitz says, here's the questions we asked. Here's the answers he gave. He clearly lied. The evidence is crystal clear. It's not even close. A jury, I've been on a jury. Many of you have been on juries. You know, when you're sitting there in that juror's room, you don't get to decide, well, you know, your political feelings or anything else. You can only go on the evidence presented in the court hearing. And if the evidence says 100% that he lied and there's evidence to prove he lied, that is it. So I would be very surprised if he says, well, we may not be able to win this case, so we're just going to let it slide. I don't think so. I don't think so. You better bring the damn case. Give it your best shot. The Gateway Pundit is reporting that Maria Butina's lawyers sent a letter, and of course they posted the letter. They're not just making this up. They actually posted the letter. You can read it for yourself. I did. It's not a long letter, but boy, they make some fairly strong, to-the-point accusations. So Maria Butina's lawyers, and of course she's doing 18 months in jail right now, Maria Butina's lawyers sent a letter to John Durham, the prosecutor, along with Horowitz and the Department of Justice Office of Professional Responsibility, to advise them that they, Butina's attorneys, they have learned of new information that Mueller and Wiseass withheld exculpatory evidence against their client, and they want the matter looked into. They specifically cite the Brady violation, the Brady material violations. This would not be the first time that Uncle Bob, the drive-by executioner, and Andrew Wiseass withheld exculpatory evidence. They've been doing it for years. It's their, it's the way they operate. They do it over and over again, and they never get in trouble for it. That's why they keep doing it. At some point, you got to stop it. So I don't know if she's got good lawyers. I assume they're pretty good lawyers. But certainly this case, and this has a lot to do with the fact that Patrick Byrne has come out and made these statements. And I think he's probably a key witness here. So, yes, I mean, they need to dig into this. They need to find out if they did withhold exculpatory evidence. If they did, the case gets reversed. And they should file charges against Mueller and Weissman. This has been going on with these two for a very long time. At some point, you just got to stop it. Jesus. Well, more crazy news about Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar. Boy, is she a nut. She is a nut of a very rare variety, I gotta tell you. So we have this Dr. Beth Jordan Minette. Her name is Dr. Beth Jordan Minette, who says her husband, Tim Minette, told her back in April of this past year that he was having an affair with Omar. And he said that he is in love with her. And since then, Minette has ditched his wife and filed for divorce in a D.C. court. And this information is coming directly from the court documents. So Tim Minette has a consulting firm. Omar had paid his firm $230,000 during Omar's 2018 campaign. Now Omar is refusing, as usual, to comment, and she says she is being asked stupid questions to smear her character. Well, I don't think her character needs it smearing. On its face, she's a fraud and a criminal. She's got a lot of problems. She's a loose woman, by the way. Jeez. She gets around. Now, this is after Omar's divorce papers from her brother/lover had a baby with a different husband during her marriage to her brother. That's tricky, isn't it? Yes, that's right. So here she's caught up in this divorce between this political consultant, who's a political consultant for demo commies, his wife, who is a doctor. He comes home, hey, honey, I'm having an affair with this congresswoman, Omar, who's apparently married to her brother. At the same time that she had a baby with a different husband during a marriage to her brother. The media does not appear to be interested whatsoever in anything having to do with Ilhan Omar. Nope. Not on MSNBC, CNN. I don't even think on Fox. I don't watch Fox very much, but I haven't heard anything. Most of the reporting that you're seeing on Omar is a result of some, I guess you'd say, right-leaning conservative websites, news and information sites. The ABC, NBC, CBS, the Alphabet media channels don't seem to be very interested at all. Now, can you imagine if this was a Republican? Can you imagine if this was Amy Coney Barrett? Or some female Republican having this kind of sordid, crazy shit, for lack of a better term, going on. This coming after Omar's divorce papers from her brother/lover had a baby with a different husband during her marriage to her brother. Married to her brother at the same time she has a baby with a different husband. All this happening in the same time that she's having an affair with her former political consultant, who's married to this doctor, who's now gone into a D.C. court and filed for divorce, and says her husband basically walked in and said, yeah, I'm in love with Ilhan Omar. Apparently everybody's in love with her, except for me. Whew. Paul Sperry. Paul Sperry has a new article on Real Clear Investigations. You might want to read it. The long and short of it is that the intelligence agencies are still withholding documents related to Spygate, more than 3 months after Trump's declassification order. Sperry says the logjam is with the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Now that would have been Dan Coates and Sue Gordon, but they've both resigned. So I'm not sure if the acting ODNI has anything to do with this, and he seemed like a pretty straight guy, but I don't know if he's in his post yet. I don't know who's running the ODNI right now, but apparently, according to Sperry, that's where the logjam is. So he says that Coates and Gordon are gone, but the bottleneck still exists. The deep state, specifically, is what we're talking about here. So the ODNI won't come off the documents, and the ones he's specifically talking about here are documents that have been requested that are regarding Joseph Mifsud. Sperry says that AG Barr has not demanded the documents, but he has only requested files, hoping for cooperation. Well, when you're playing with the deep state, hope that they're going to cooperate is not going to get you very far. That's why Trump gave you full declassification authority, Mr. Barr. He didn't want you playing the game with them anymore. He wants you to say, I now have the authority. I want you to give me these documents, and I want them now. You're going to have to throw your ass around a little bit here, Mr. Barr. You're going to have to throw your weight around a little bit. You're going to have to sit on some people. You have to yell at some people. You have to use that authority that you have. You're in a death match with the deep state. They're trying to run out the clock until 2020, Mr. Barr. Everyone else has figured that out, apparently, but you. You need to get on your pogo stick and hop along at a much faster pace. Because right now, it's not cutting it. The coup continues while you're playing nicey nice with the deep state. It's not going to work. You're going to have to kick them in the balls, grab them by the throat, and spit in their eye if you want to get anything done. They're trying to run out the clock until 2020. Don't be a sucker, Mr. Barr. If your testicles have shrank, if they shrank and they've crawled up your hiney, give me a call. I'll be more than happy. You can deputize me as your Deputy Attorney General. Give me that authority. I'll be more than happy to walk into the ODNI, whoever's the head guy. I'll walk into his office and say, I want these documents, and I want them now. And if you give me bullshit, I'm going to kick you in the chops. There. That's what you do. You're going to have to play hard. Watch Trump. What does Trump do? If everyone else around him had even 10% of the stones that he's got, of the follow-through that he's got, of the courage that he's got, we might get something done. But he's surrounded by feeble, weak people who are clearly afraid. you know, I realize the situation. I realize it's probably dangerous. But if you didn't want to, come in the ninth inning with bases loaded, behind in the count, then you shouldn't have shown up in the bullpen. Boris Johnson. Well. I think Boris Johnson's been watching Trump and he's learning some things. Boris Johnson has suspended Parliament for 5 weeks. Very, very nice move on the part of Boris Johnson. He has suspended Parliament for 5 weeks. This has been okayed and approved by the Queen. And of course, as you can imagine, Jeremy Corbyn and the Remoaners are furious. Because they still had some more tricks up their sleeve. But now, Boris Johnson has pretty effectively curtailed all that. This should take him pretty much up to the point where we could be looking at hard Brexit. And so, this is really good because it actually curtails the European deep state and the EU and the Remoaners from being able to launch any crap on him in the next 5 to 6 weeks, which leads us up to the date where there'd be a hard Brexit. It also means that that he can go to the EU and he can say, look, here's the deal. Here's what we're willing to do to have a deal to get out of Brexit. And this is what we're realistically willing to do. This stuff that Theresa May was pushing, you can forget that. The stuff that you're saying here in the EU, you can forget that. You got one or two choices. We can either do a hard Brexit, no deal Brexit, or we can have a deal that you probably won't like, but it would be better for you than a no deal. And as far as we're concerned, we're either getting out with a no deal Brexit or we're going to get a deal we can actually live with. And the only question is, will Boris Johnson be able to put together anything that's even remotely acceptable? And I don't think that there is, because I don't think that they want a favorable exit by the UK out of the EU. I think that's not what they want. What they want is to force by, hook or crook, the EU to stay in, at least in the customs union, which means you're pretty much still in the EU. Or they want complete chaos. They want to force a hard Brexit, and then they're going to try to punish the UK. And that's basically, and to make an example of them for other countries who might try to do the same. But a lot of other countries don't have the same deal that the UK had, and the UK never gave up their currency. So they can transition out. A lot of these other countries gave up their currencies. They're on the euro, and so that means that they could actually be retaliated against in a big way. And that's the problem they face. The UK doesn't face that problem. So I think that Boris Johnson is, so far so good. Stay the course. Looking forward to it. Alrighty. Well, it looks like that's what we got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Take care. Bye.